Hey guys, busy little week this week. I've got a few things to update on, but I just wanted to start with a video on the Honda CRF300 Rally, a bike which, if anybody watched the Battle of the Singles, know that won. It won overall against my Ryu 307, the Vos 300 Rally, the KTM 390 Enduro R, the Suzuki DRZ 4S, and the Himalayan 450. And it was a surprise, really. I never expected it to win, but actually, when you put them all back to back on the same terrain, looking at them in the same way, it was the bike that just stood, I guess, head and shoulders in a way, as above the others for its all-round usability, capability, and reliability, which are three great strengths for a travel trail bike. And that's, I guess, what I was looking at them for, like which would do the trails, which would do the travelling the best. And I just felt overall the Honda CRF, despite its age, despite its shortcomings in various areas, it was still the bike to beat. Um, Coincidentally, I had a weekend up at Sweetlam, the Adventure Training Academy. I went up there, I had 25 guys up there, hosting them for some trail training. And I had to take a bike up there for a customer to borrow because he needed a bike. So I took the Honda CRF up and he used it for that weekend and he liked it. And then the next few days, the next week, I was running an ACT, a supported ACT UK trip, whereby I supply the van, the bookings, the ferry, and that to the Isle of Man, and the riders turn up, and yeah, we just give them a helping hand. And I used the CRF 300 for this. I only did the first few days. I then handed it over to a couple of my guys, Mike and Julian, who did a fantastic job of carrying the trip on. But it was a great opportunity for me to just use the CRF 300 Rally in the way that it's intended, to do some travelling on the road and also some trail. And I think it actually just cemented that I'd made the right choice, really. Two reasons. I think on the trail, there's a lot of criticism for this soft suspension, but actually, when you're riding around Clairwyn Reservoir Road, which has got lots of potholes in it and it's a rough surface, and you're just wanting to relax and ride the route, that soft suspension's actually fantastic. It gobbles it up. It makes easy work of that kind of terrain. And even when you start pushing it on it still holds itself together nicely. And the soft suspension is a benefit on that type of terrain. There's a lot of people putting aftermarket suspension on, firming it up, and etc. But I kind of ask the question: is it making it better or just making it firmer? And I'm not sure that those two things are the same thing. And then when I had a chance to open it up on Barmouth Lane and things like that, and we were nursing a couple of riders who needed a bit of hand-holding, so we weren't pushing along too much of a pace. But when you did start to open it up and you had a bit of open trail, even with that soft suspension, it's really playful. It's a really engaging bike, darty bike, manageable bike. And for the fact it has got the soft suspension, it means you get your feet down easy. You can get on the bike easy. Well, actually, that's not true. It springs up quite a lot on the extension when you put the side stand down, which is a bit of a complaint about it. But when you're riding the bike on the trails, I kind of think we've over-egged this criticism of the bike suspension. I actually think its attributes of being soft is what makes it so good for so many people on the trails, and is what's made it so popular. And I think there's a lot of people over firming it up, putting too much stiff suspension on, which doesn't necessarily benefit you unless you're pushing on. Maybe if you're a bigger bloke or you're carrying a lot of luggage, then you need to do suspension work. But yeah, I'm not convinced this criticism of the bike rings true. So I enjoyed it on the trails. I thought it was really capable on the trails. Nice light clutch, soft power. For a novice rider like Matt on the Rayu, he would have been better on a CRF because it's more friendly, easier to ride, softer edged, and just as capable and ultimately reliable. 5 years I've had this bike and it's not missed a beat. It was on the road though that it also surprised me. I had to do some backtracking from Chester down to my van in mid Wales. So I had a couple of hours stint, bit of motorway, bit of A road, dual carriageway. The bike will sit at 70, 65 quite happily. It was quite comfortable. It was a comfortable place to be. Yeah, it's not going to overtake easy, and there's bikes with more power to do that, such as the Hemi 450, which has got more overtaking power, but it's got more weight. It wouldn't have done the trails as nicely. It wouldn't have been as fast and friendly on the trails. The DRZ 4S that I rode in America recently for 8 days on a trail trip, that wouldn't sit on the road as smoothly as the CRF. And that's interesting. It's got more power, bigger engine, but actually doing road miles, the CRF was friendly, was an easier bike and more relaxing, mainly for that sixth gear, but also for having that road-derived engine, which made the miles easier to ride than on that DRZ. Seat was comfier as well, and for the seat, for the screen and the extra tank size, it just meant a better travel bike than the DRZ. And then on the trails, as I say, it really did well. So I came away with the conclusion that I'd made the right choice in picking the CRF, the winner. Is it the most exciting? Is it the one you'd necessarily buy? Maybe not. Maybe there's other virtues in other bikes that you like more of. I've just picked up a KTM 390 Adventure. I'm going to do some testing on that. You know, that's got more brawn, more power, more long distance ability on the road. But is it as good off road? Is it as good on the trails? You know, lots of questions, lots of things to circle around. But when it comes to the nub of it, the CRF300 Rally is still a cracking bike. It could still be improved, maybe, you know, a little bit more power, maybe a little bit better suspension, maybe partnering up with Shower, who Honda own now, to put some better shocks and spring on it. But I don't know. Like, I liked it the way it was, soft and blancmangy, but effortlessly comfortable, and also quick enough and capable enough when you wanted to push on. You know, so that's it. Quick little download video on the CRF300 Rally. It is more expensive than the rest, but even I, a miser, a skinflint, a northerner, can admit that it has got a lot of virtues that justify that extra cost. So there we go. All right, cheers.